I'm going to HE double hockey sticks for this one, but I made a crust pie. It's pastry crust on the bottom with graham cracker crust on top and Oreo crumb crust in the middle. It's 3 pie crusts stacked on top of each other with a sweet binder between them. I will surrender myself to the authorities, but first here's the recipe. Standard short crust pastry, a stick of cold butter, 113 grams, that's 1 part by weight, now 2 parts dry ingredients by weight, almost entirely flour, normal all-purpose flour, and then like a spoonful or 2 of sugar. We have plenty more sweetness coming. A pinch or 2 of salt if you're using unsalted butter, and then I'll just hack at it. You can do this with a food processor, you can do it with a pastry cutter, but you can also just smack it around with a knife. Keep cutting the butter until it almost disappears in there. I'll make a little well and then start working in just enough cold water to bring this together into a shaggy dough. The reason everything needs to be cold is you don't want to melt the butter. If the butter melts, you get a totally homogeneous texture that isn't crumbly or flaky or anything like that. It should look like you didn't use quite enough water. Throw that in the fridge for a half hour, let all the particles hydrate, and we should be perfect. Meanwhile, my binder that'll go between the crusts. Dark corn syrup. You could use golden syrup or honey. The dark syrup has a nice caramel flavor. Half a cup, 150 grams or so. And then another half a cup of plain granulated sugar, 100 grams. The mixture of crystallized sucrose with other syrups gets you a thick yet soft texture, at least when baked with eggs. 2 eggs, a good splash of vanilla, stir smooth. This is basically pecan pie filling. It's missing butter, but we're going to have plenty of butter elsewhere. Speaking of which, half a stick, like 60 grams of butter, melted. We'll need that to bind our crumb crust, starting with Oreos. One of these big sleeves, which is 16 Oreos, or thereabouts, maybe 200 grams max in a bag, and then Hulk smash. You can do this in a food processor, but Hulk smash. This is just my rolling pin, by the way, a blunt instrument for an imprecise job. When I need a precision instrument, I turn to Harry's, sponsor of this video. I use fine German steel in the kitchen and when I shave. Yes, I still shave. A little. Ooh, check out the new 2-tone handle design with deeper grooves for better grip. Half of that plastic is recycled, by the way. Love the shave gel with the aloe. It feels great and there's no obnoxious smell. Now for some precision beard maintenance. The flex hinge will help me negotiate these corners. The thing about my beard is it grows really slowly, and when there's not much there for a bad razor to grab onto, you just get terrible skin irritation. I dealt with that my whole life until I found Harry's. Their 5-blade razors are just sharper. They can handle anything from peach fuzz on up. Harry's manufactures these blades in their own factory in Germany, and the refills are shockingly affordable. You can get a Harry's starter set like mine here for just $3 with my link, harrys.com/Adam. After that, you can get razor refills delivered right to your door. Just $3 for a set with a razor, weighted handle, and shave gel. harrys.com/Adam. Thank you, Harry's. Anyway, I'll put maybe a third of this butter in with the cookie crumbs and then toss. Like you do for any crumb crust, you want just enough butter so that it doesn't immediately crumble when you clench it, like that. That's good enough, done. A little flour on the counter, and we can roll out our chilled, rested pastry dough. It's always hardest at the beginning. Just give it a few rolls, turn, and repeat. Turning helps you roll more evenly, and it keeps the bottom of the pastry from sticking to the counter. Very gradually, it'll start to flatten out without cracking, but if it cracks a little, that's fine. The harder a short crust pastry is to work, the better it's going to taste. The heterogeneous distribution of butter creates fault lines that'll crumble in your mouth. Doesn't have to be super thin. What is that, like half a centimeter? Wide enough to cover my pie pan, which I'll grease up with my butter over here. That'll make the pie really easy to get out later. Lay the pastry in, go around the edge, breaking off any excess and being sure to patch any holes. Holes would let that corn syrup mixture seep through to the pan surface where it would burn or stick. Pour in a thin layer of said mixture. It just tastes great and it binds all the layers together. Oreo crumb layer in, and then I'll compress it a little like I would for any crumb crust. Just don't smoosh the pastry underneath. Now, to minimize both color pollution and waste, I'll turn this bag inside out and throw in 2 of these packages of graham crackers, about 250 grams. Smashy smash. That chocolate is on the outside of the bag, so my colors are staying separate. The rest of my melted butter goes in with a pinch of salt if it's unsalted butter, and you can throw in some cinnamon if you want. It's actually good if it seems like you don't have quite enough butter to bind this into a crust. Too much butter and it'll be too solid once baked. Give that syrup syrup and egg mixture another stir. It separates as it sits. Then pour in another layer on top of the chocolate, followed by all of the graham cracker crumbs. Again, I'll pat that flat and then pour over my remaining syrup. This will make the top all shiny. Cover in aluminum foil. That'll trap heat and get you even cooking across all those layers, and bake at 350 Fahrenheit, 180 C. We'll check back in on it in 45 minutes, which is now. Time to remove the foil and bake it again. How long depends on your oven and the dimensions of the pan. This is a narrow, deep pan, which means it's going to take a little bit of extra time. See how the center jiggles in there? Bake this until everything is brown and that jiggling pretty much stops, which was another 45 minutes for me. If you want a gooey texture, bake it a little less. I like it super chewy. Let it cool for a bit, and then it's solid enough that you can just turn it out like that. Slice carefully because that pastry is super crumbly, as it should be. And there you go, there's your slice. If you're less of a crust person than I am, you can moisten things up with some whipped cream on top. Super chewy, not that easy to cut through with a fork. Oh yeah, HE double hockey sticks. It's like a giant, chewy chocolate golden graham. You know, it's solid enough that you can just pick up the piece, and that's the way to do it. Do it in moderation.